Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Divine and in today's video I'm going to show us how to cut and sew a high waist cargo pant with cargo pocket. So if this is something you're interested in, kindly watch this video to the end. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. So I have 3 yards of my African print fabric here. I ended up using just 2.5 for this cargo pants. So if you're on a bigger side, you might need the whole 3 yards of fabric. And I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two and I cut out a width of 14 inches. I got this 14 inches by dividing my hip measurement by 4, which is 9.5, plus 1.5 inches for ease and 2.5 inches for my crotch extension. In total, that's 13.5. So I'll be needing 13.5 for the front of my cargo pants. So I just cut out 14 to be on the safer side. Now I've drawn out a straight line at the top of my fabric here, which is going to be our starting point. So because this is a high waist pant, I'll be placing the tip of my tape on this starting line here. But if we're making a pant that is sitting on the low waist and we're making use of a band of 2 inches, I'm going to be placing 2 inches of my tape on this starting line. But because this is a high waist, I'll be placing the tip of my tape on this starting line here. After which I'm going to mark out my hip line of 8 inches and my crotch depth. And the formula for our crotch depth is our hip measurement divided by 4, which is 9.5. I'll be adding 1.5 inches for ease. So from this waistline here, I'll come down with 11 inches for our crotch depth. The next thing I'll get now is our pants full length. And the pants full length I'm working with is 38 inches plus 2 inches for folding allowance, that's 40 inches. But I'll be marking just 38 here. By the time we add our band of 2 inches, we will be having 40 inches for our length. Now on this crotch line here, I'm going to mark out our hip measurement divided by 4, which is 9.5. Then I'll be adding ease of 1.5 inches to it. Then I'll measure all I have, which is 11 inches. I'll mark that 11 inches all the way to the waist line. Then connect the points together. So our hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 inches for ease. So you can make it 2 inches, you can make it 3 inches, depending on how baggy you want this to be. Next, I'll mark my crotch extension, which is my hip measurement divided by 16. So I'll mark 2.5 inches approximately. Then on this straight line here, I will also mark the 2.5 inches. Then I'll come over to my waistline here and go inwards from this straight line with 0.75. After which I'll come down by 0.75 also. Then I'll connect the 0.75 to touch this 2.5, then this crotch extension. So watch how I blend this curve here. I'll connect this 2.5 to touch the 2.5 there, then connect to touch my 0.75 using a curve, the curvy part of my ruler. Next, I'll connect this 0.75 now to touch the waistline on this side. So this is how the front is going to be for our pants. Next, I'll measure all I have here, which is 13.5. I'll be taking that 13.5 all the way down. But I don't want this pant to be too big at the hem, so I'm going to be minusing 2 inches from this 13.5. So I'll minus 1 from this side and minus 1 from the other side. But you can also decide to take this straight down. So I'm going to be having 11.5 at the hem. So I'll connect it using my straight ruler. And you can decide to take this straight down, like I said. I just want to reduce the baggy effect a bit, so I'm reducing 1 inch on both sides. Next, I want to mark out my pocket. I'll be going in with 3 inches for my pocket width, and for the length I'll be marking 6.5 inches. You can also mark 6 inches. I'll be marking 6.5 inches, then I'll connect it. So this is what we are having for our front draft. So I'm going to be cutting now, but I'll be cutting on this straight waistline first because we need it to draft our back. I'm just going to mark the 1/2 inch seam allowance. at the top before cutting. So after we cut our back, we're going to follow the slope of the front waistline. So I'll cut out my front piece. And this is what we are having for the front. Next, I'm going to fold another piece of fabric into two again, but this time it's going to be bigger than the 14 inches we folded for the front. So I'm going to fold 17 inches here. I'll place my front pattern on this, and I'll make sure I have extra fabric at the top of the front pattern. I'll extend the crotch line and also extend the hip line. What I'll do next now, I'm going to measure what I have for my front crotch extension, which is 2.5. I'll mark that same 2.5 on the back crotch. Then on the hip line here for the back, I'm going to be coming out with 2 inches. So for this waistline here, I'm just going to fold in this sewing allowance we have on the front piece. I'll fold it in, then go up with 1 inch on this side. So I'll be extending with 1 inch. I folded in my seam allowance. So if the person is on a bigger side or have a bigger hip, you can go up with 1.5, you can go up with 2 inches. So I'll connect that 2 inches now to touch the crotch extension for the back. After which, I'll connect that 1 inch now to touch our waistline on the side. So this is what we are having for this. I'll just add our seam allowance at the top of this. Then on the inseam here, I'm going to be adding 1.5 all the way. You can add 1.5, you can add 2 inches. After that, I'm going to cut out the back pattern. So this is it for our back draft. So I'm going to cut out our front waist now, following this slant, and I'll make sure I add my 1/2 inch sewing allowance. And this is what we are having for the front. So now for our cargo pockets, we have different sizes of cargo pockets. I want to make use of a 7x7 cargo pocket here. So I'll measure 7 inches plus 1.5 inches for sewing allowance, 1 inch for sewing the top, and 1/2 inch for sewing the bottom. So I'm going to mark 8.5 inches for the length, and for the width I'll be marking 7 inches plus 1/2 inch sewing allowance on both sides. That's 8 inches. So for the length now, I'm having 8.5 inches, while for the width I'm having 8 inches. So I'm just going to notch the upper part of this, then chop the wrong side. So I'm having 8 inches here. I'm going to also cut out 8 inches width for our pocket cover, and I'm working with a width of 2.5 inches plus 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the top and at the bottom. That's 3.5 inches. So I'll mark out 8 inches width and a length of 3.5 inches. So by the time we're done sewing, we'll be left with a width of 7 inches and a length of 2.5 inches. Next, I want to cut out another smaller pocket, and I want the pocket to be 5 inches plus 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. That's 6.5 for the length, and for the width I want the width to be 4 inches plus 1/2 inch sewing on both sides. That's 5 inches. So we're having a width of 5 inches. I will notch the up so we don't turn the pocket the other way. Now for the pocket cover, this 5 inches I'm having here, I'm going to mark it out. Then I'm working with a length of 3.5 inches or 3 inches. Because this is a smaller pocket, I want the cover to be 2 inches. So plus 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the top and at the bottom, that's 3 inches. So 3 inches here for the pocket cover, and this pocket cover is going to be two. We'll be cutting 2 pieces of it, one for the lining and one for the main fabric. So this is it for the smaller pocket. Then I want to have one other big pocket. So for this big pocket, I'm going to have a width of 9 inches, 8 inches plus seam allowance of 1 inch, that's 9 inches, and a length of 8 inches plus 1.5, that's 9.5 inches. So you can measure your pockets anyhow you want it. You can have a pocket bigger than this, you can have a pocket smaller than this. So whichever works for you. I'll notch the upper part. Then I'll be cutting out the pocket cover. So I'm marking out 3.5 inches. And this is what we are having for the pocket cover. So next I want to cut out the border of the pocket. That's the long piece of fabric that will go around, and I'll take my pocket now and measure it this way. I'll measure the 3 sides this way, not the upper part, the other 3 sides. I'll measure what I'm having there. Then I'm going to cut a long piece of fabric of the same measurement plus excess for sewing, because we need to sew the top of this piece here at the bottom. Then I'll be marking a width of 2 inches. I'll cut it out. So this is the pocket border of this pocket here. By the time we sew it this way, you can see what we are having. So I'll set it aside and measure the length of this smaller pocket. I'll place my tape this way, then cut out a piece of fabric for it of 2 inches. So I'll cut it out, I'll set it aside. Then I'll cut one for the last pocket. And for the back pocket, I want to have a length of 5 inches or 4.5 inches plus 1.5 for seam allowance. That's 5.5 or 6 rather. 6 inches. I'll cut it out. Then I want my pocket to be about 4 inches. So I'll mark out 5 inches here because of the seam allowance on both sides. So I'll mark out 5 inches. And I'm going to cut out. After which now I'll fold this piece into 2. Then go up on the bottom side with 1 inch, which I'll just blend back to the center. So I want the pocket to have like a V shape, as you can see. So I've gone ahead to sew the front pocket, as you can see. Please refer to my other trouser videos so you can know how I made this trouser. So today I'll just be focusing on the cargo pockets. So I'm going to place the back of our fabric on the front side and sew the side with 1 inch. So I'll make sure the right side of the front is facing the right side of the back. Then I'll sew with 1 inch. I'll open up the seam allowance and give it a good press. Now for our pocket, I went ahead to change the pocket cover and the border to a black crepe fabric. So I didn't want the whole pants to be one shade, one particular fabric. So I changed the pocket cover and the pocket border to a plain crepe fabric. So this is what we're having. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to locate the up of our pocket, then fold it in with 1 inch. I'll sew it at the tip. I'll fold it in with 1 inch, sew it at the tip. I'll do this for this pocket also. I'll locate the up, fold the up in with 1 inch. Then I'll do the same for this smaller pocket. Fold it in with 1 inch. After doing that, this is our pocket cover here, which I changed to a crepe fabric. I'm going to sew 3 sides of this with 1/2 inch, then turn it out from the under. So after sewing this side here, this is what I'm having for our pocket cover also after sewing it. So you can see what I'm having. You can see I'm having an excess of ½ inch on the pocket. So by the time we sew this, the pocket cover is going to be equal with the pocket. So now to sew our border to this pocket, I'm first going to roll the hem here. I'll sew it, then place it right side facing each other. Then sew with ½ inch like so. I'll turn it, sew with ½ inch. Then cut off the excess on this top. I'll fold it, then sew it. I'll do the same for the other pocket. I'll first of all roll the starting point of this fabric. I'll sew it, then place it right side facing the right side of the pocket. So we're sewing this on the front side of the pocket. I'll sew it with ½ inch. I'll turn it this way, sew it. I'll trim off the excess fabric there, and so on. So this is what I'm having, and I sewed this on the right side. So by the time we turn it over this way, this is what we are going to be having. So you can see what we are having here. Next, now I'm going to be sewing this to my pants. So you can just locate this particular side you want this pocket to be. Then I'll fold in the black fabric, the black crepe. I'll push it in all around. Then I'll take my chalk now and trace out where this Ankara fabric is. I'll push in the black fabric. I'll be tracing out where the Ankara fabric is. I'll trace it out. And I place this pocket on the midpoint of this side joining. So it's at the middle of this side joining. You can decide to place it a little bit to the front, or however you want to place your pants. So you can be creative with your pocket here. After which I'll fold in this plain fabric here. I'll fold it with ½ inch and place the ½ inch on this chalk that I've marked out and sew on it. I'll fold the fabric in with ½ inch. I'll place it on this chalk marking I made, then sew on the tip of it. So we need the chalk to guide us on how to sew the black fabric. That is why we traced out the Ankara. Then for this smaller piece also, I'll fold in the black fabric, then use my chalk to trace out where the Ankara is. I'll trace out the Ankara part of the pocket. I'll trace it out so that it's easier to sew. Then I'll fold in ½ inch of the black fabric there and sew. I'll place the fabric on the chalk line, exactly on the chalk line, then sew it. Sew at the tip of it. So I'll do this for this other side. So I'm having 2 pockets on that pant and 1 big one on this side. So this is what I have after sewing. I also went ahead to sew down a bit of this pocket on the sides here. So like this one now, this is what I'm having. I didn't sew the side, so I'll just fold it in this way, then top stitch there. Fold it in this way, then top stitch, so that it can coordinate the pocket. So this is what I'm having. Now to sew the cover, I went ahead to top stitch on this pocket. So I'm going to mark out ½ inch from the top of this pocket here, ½ inch. Then I'll be placing the tip of my pocket cover on the ½ inch, then sew on the black fabric with ½ inch. So by the time we sew and turn it this way, this is what we'll be having. So I'll mark ½ inch from the top, place the tip of my cover on that ½ inch, then sew on the black fabric with ½ inch. So this is what I have after doing this, and I also flatted on the top of the cover. So you can see I'm having 2.5 and 2 inches for the cover length. So for the pocket at the back of our pants, this is what I'm having. I'm going to cut out a cover for it. or trim off the excess fabric. I'm going to mark out 5 inches. Then I want this pocket to be 2 inches. 2 inches for the depth. So I'm having 3 inches here. Then I'll fold this pocket into 2 and just give it a slope. I'll cut it out so we have like a V shape. Next, I'm going to roll the hem of this pocket. I'll fold it in and sew. Then on the sides, I'm going to fold it in with 1/2 inch and iron it so it stays in place. I'm going to sew our pockets cover with 1/2 inch. You can see what I'm having after doing that. So this is how it's going to be. Then on the back piece of this pant now, I'm going to be placing my pocket. So you can decide to place this on the midpoint. You can decide to get the midpoint of the back pant here. Then I'll be coming down with 5 inches. I'll place my pocket on the 5 inches. Then I'll be sewing round. I'll sew on the sides all round. Then I'll place my pocket 1/2 inch away from the tip of this pocket, then sew it. So this is what I'm having for the back pocket. I also went ahead to 4 flat. So now I'm going to be placing the pocket on each other, then sew the front crotch with 1/2 inch and the back crotch with 1/2 inch. After doing that, this is what I'm having, as you can see. Then I'll pick in the inseam. I'll make sure they align, the midpoints are facing each other. Then I'll sew with 1/2 inch. I'll sew with 1/2 inch all the way. I'll sew the other side with 1/2 inch. After sewing with 1/2 inch, I'm going to hem the down of my pants with the 2 inches I added for the seam allowance. And this is what I'm having. Now to cut out the band of this pant, I will measure what I'm having on my waistline here. Which is 18.5 inches. I'll cut out a piece of fabric with a width of 5 inches. If you are working with a band of 2 inches, that's 5 inches. Then I'll measure the length of my band, which is 37 inches plus 1 inch for seam allowance, that's 38 inches. So I'll cut out. I'll chalk the wrong side of this fabric, then fold the fabric into 2 and sew the side with 1/2 inch. After sewing with 1/2 inch now, I'm going to fold my fabric into 2 like so. Then I'll pick up my pants now and sew my band to my pant. So I'll place my band now on the right side of my pant, like so. Then I'm going to sew all around with 1/2 inch. But I'm going to leave a small opening before the end of the sewing so we can insert our elastic. So this is the opening I left at the back here. So we'll be inserting our elastic from that opening. I have my 1 inch of elastic band here, and our waist measurement is 28 inches. I will cut out 4 inches from this so that the band is not too loose. So you can cut out 4 inches from that 28 inches. I'll put my safety pin. Then from that opening I have on the back, I will insert my elastic inside the opening. I will insert it, and so the elastic does not run in, I'm going to pin the tip here like so, then insert the other side all the way till I get to the end. After doing that, I'm going to be sewing the elastic now with 1/2 inch. I'll sew it, then close up the opening I'm having there, and this is what I'm having. Now because this band is a 2 inches waistband and the elastic is 1 inch, I don't want the elastic to tilt inside, so I'm going to be sewing on this band. And to do that, I'm going to expand the waistline this way, then hold the band and the elastic in place, then pin it. I'll expand it, then hold it in place so it doesn't stretch back to its original form. I'll pin it. I'll expand it again, then pick up that part and pin it. I'll do that all round, after which I'll take it to my machine and sew on it. So it's easier to sew that way. I'll just pull it then sew, I'll pull it then sew, I'll pull it then sew. So I'll be sewing 2 lines, and this is it after sewing like that. You can see what we are having. So this is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next tutorial. Bye for now.